Citizens of Kingstown, welcome to Too Many Shows, a TV podcast. I am your host, Benjamin David. We are both live on our YouTube channel, B David Studios, and you can also find the pod wherever you listen to podcasts. So subscribe and follow there so you don't miss an episode. On that note, smash that like button, hit subscribe, all the things. Turn on notifications for future streams of Too Many Shows. Also, any kind of super donation here on the stream or on any of our videos is much appreciated. And we're continuing the pods and the streams with our newest show, Mayor of Kingstown. Today we're back for Season 4, Episode 4, titled Sins of Omission. So moving forward, we're still going to go live every Monday. We're going to start between 2:30 and 3 p.m. EST. I know I've been going live, trying to go live between 2 and 2:30, but I think 2:30 and 3 p.m. is probably more realistic. Follow us on Instagram at Too Many Shows Pod. And finally, if you want to hear our exclusive episode for Nola King, the Sam Jackson spin-off series at Tulsa King, then head on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/BatmanBeyondMedia. In fact, if you're up to date on Tulsa King, Sam Jackson just showed up for the first time last night for last night's episode of Tulsa King. So go watch that if you haven't. We have our Alien Earth Season 1 post-mortem exclusive on there. Season 2 has just been renewed for whatever reason. So that news just dropped this week. So if you want to hear that, that's on our Patreon. And then finally, I also have an exclusive coming for the crime series Task, the HBO miniseries with Mark Ruffalo. As patrons, you guys also get early access to podcasts, detailed episode notes for each pod, and a ton of exclusive vids and pods you can only find there. That's all just at the $1 level. And again, patreon.com/BatmanBeyondMedia. All right, so let's do it. My review of Mayor of Kingstown Season 4, Episode 4. So some IMDb credits, and then we have our non-spoiler initial thoughts, and then our spoiler walkthrough. Episode 4 is titled once again, Sins of Omission. Script is by James Arcega Tinsley, which did 16 episodes at Kingstown, so a Kingstown vet. Directed by Leslie Hope, which I was excited to see again. Second episode directing Kingstown. Directed last episode, which was her first, and then also episodes of Snowpiercer, if you're a fan of Snowpiercer. Created, of course, by Hugh, Dillon, and Taylor Sheridan. Music composition was by Andrew Lockington. Cast, again, we'll keep this part brief since most of our cast is in place for the season. But top billing, of course, our boy Jeremy Renner as the mayor of Kingstown himself, Mike McCluskey. Edie Falco as Warden Hobbs. And then to highlight some of this episode's cast, since we haven't really talked about them before, we have some of them. We have D Smoke as Raph. That's his name on IMDb. D Smoke, who's actually a composer musician as well as an actor. I mean, I always loved his performance in the show, so it's cool to get a credit there. We did talk about him last episode, but he got a good little part in this episode too. Matthew Del Negro returns as C.O. Breen. Ugh, what a creep. Apparently also he was in a single shot of the previous episode to last, but he's not really in it. He just kind of was credited with that. And then finally, speaking of Sopranos casting, we have John Chenatiempo as C.O. Clyde in ADSEG. This guy has been in a ton of mob stuff, most notably once again Sopranos as Anthony Maffei. I believe he was also in, I did a video about the Sopranos that show up in other gangster movies, and I'm pretty sure he was in True Romance. And then he's also in Tulsa King. So some non-spoiler initial thoughts. This episode might not have as much action as the previous ones, but holy shit, does it continue to move. Like, this particular episode, I talk about this a lot, feels that slow burn. It's like slow burn detective, 70s slow burn detective, but not slow. So I talk about this a little bit. I guess let's keep with this genre for a second, and then we'll get to sci-fi very briefly. But it's relevant because, you know, 70s, I was going to say Ridley Scott is kind of the sci-fi version, whereas in the 70s you had the slow burn detective stuff, right? You have Serpico, you have just a ton of that whole genre, hard-boiled detective. And I think that this episode does that, but it's like taking a genre and improving it almost. And this is what I was about to say about sci-fi slow burn. You know, you take Ridley Scott slow burn stuff like Alien or Blade Runner. I think that with series, you actually have an opportunity to do this with it, which is, you know, you have long extended shots of things. Characters can feel free to pause. It's not every second is filled with annoying dialogue. So it does what, again, 70s slow burn, it's the vibe, and then all the detective stuff with Mike sitting in his office drinking whiskey alone. But it does it it speeds it up. As we always say, this show does not stop moving. So it's like a really cool way of modernizing it, genre-wise, you could say. And then a couple more points, and then we'll get to our spoiler walkthrough. As I'll get into more detail later, I do want more Warden Hobbs, but I also have a guess as to why we don't see more of her, at least quite yet, meaning in this season, quite yet at this point in the season. The season's 10 episodes altogether, so I'm really hoping by next episode we get more of her. She's so good, obviously Edie Falco, but I think I can also see, and again, I'm going to get into detail about it, why they're maybe holding her back, even for screen time. And finally, I'm so happy to get our nighttime industrial establishing shots. So these, smokestacks and burning, they even add sound at one point in this episode of a smokestack burning. And I think that we got a lot of those shots in previous season. We did get some in this season, but it feels like they're more daytime. They were doing a lot with the snow. This is specifically, again, like seeing a whole, again, yard of smokestacks, whatever you call that industry, but it's at night. And I think, man, it's such a good way to establish this rust-belt, awful place that is Kingstown, the character of Kingstown, guys. All right. So begins our beat-by-beat spoiler walkthrough for Season 4, Episode 4. We open with a nighttime cityscape of Kingstown. Again, this is exactly what I was just talking about. I forgot it was literally opening shot. These kind of refinery, that's the word I was looking for, refinery wide shots, mega wides. And again, it's just good to have them back for Season 4. Mike and CO Cindy are in bed. That escalated. I mean, they had met. It was like the second or third time they met, but, we all saw the chemistry, and that's where it ended up. This bed is at Mike's office, mind you. Mike doesn't have a residence, and if you go back to the first season, I'm like, did we ever even see where this guy lives? And the answer to that is, yeah, he's at his office, because that's where he lives. He literally has no life. He is the mayor of Kingstown. That is all he is. Obviously, there's more to him, but man, to see that in like the living situation wise is pretty interesting. So Mike's like, he gets a call from Ian. He's like, somebody better be dying or dead. And Ian, everybody's fucking dead, Mike. Goddamn flamethrower. So he's getting the report of this, Colombian barbecue from last episode. Awful. When Frank's guys go in with the literal flamethrower and just kill a bunch of dudes. Good morning to you too, Ian. And the dark humor right off the bat. I've been rewatching, I said last episode, SOA, which has for sure Dave Erickson, who's I believe is running this show now. A lot of SOA DNA in that show and a ton of casting. But anyway, I'm watching SOA, and now I'd like to update you guys that I'm watching, speaking of SOA, The Shield, who had Kurt Sutter, was on that show as a staff writer and wrote a lot of the episodes and then moved on to SOA to run that show, of course. But point is, that's even like further back in the DNA of Kingstown if you want to go back to The Shield. Holy shit. And I had never seen The Shield, which is like the craziest part of why I went into it. I don't know why I never watched it, but holy shit, highly recommend it if you like Kingstown. And Lauren Benanti, this actress, does such a good job as CO Cindy. I mean, just doesn't overdo it. It's very specific, but it's so well done, so believable. And she also looks great in the morning. I guess she still got her makeup on from last night, and but man, she looks good out of the ADSEG prison, which is I guess not that surprising. And I love this moment of these two waking up together. We've seen it in a million things. It's something that's obviously an everyday thing, but there's just a lot going on with them, and both the actors kill it because they both definitely like each other. Meaning, like going back to there's a lot going on with them. They both definitely like each other, but they don't want to rush it. They want to be realistic. And they both play it perfect. Both as actors and I think the characters, they're kind of feeling each other out, and it's fascinating to watch. Fucking flamethrowers, huh? Because she obviously overheard it, being right next to him in bed. And Mike is just immediately, again, this guy has no life. He is the mayor of Kingstown. And immediately gets stressed and steps out. He's like, hey, could you lock up for me? And after he leaves, there's this fantastic shot of her alone in the bed, sitting up in the next room. And we've talked about in previous episodes, I think, especially last episode, Leslie Hope. As I said, even with not the industry shots that I can't stop talking about this episode. She just seems, or he, I don't know if Leslie is a boy or girl, but seems like a real fan of older episodes of Kingstown. Again, that's another example, bringing back those wide shots. We talked about in last episode, just things that, little things that have been brought back this season, and other writers and directors have done this too. But in this case, I think that voyeuristic, the use of voyeuristic shots from outside rooms, and we're going to see it later even in this episode, into other rooms, which is great. We see it a lot with the warden, and now we're going to see more of it with CEO Cindy. Cut to some more. I'll try, what's the drinking game? Cut to some more industry smokestack shots, but I didn't write it. They're there, or direct it. And then we get the crime scene, but this is the morning time of these industry smokestacks. Crime scene of the barbecued Colombians, and it is just, ugh. I'm not trying to make light of it, because that's just how sick it was. And, you know, the show, I think you get the dark humor that I'm just going with it. That's what they're giving us. He's like, they commandeered half the goddamn block, Mike. And Ian's just telling him about how next level these fucking Colombians are. These are not your typical, and as the typical street gangs, right? Which is a theme, going back to the theme of Mike being completely out of control and Kingstown being invaded by outside forces that are so next level from what Mike is normally used to. As if Kingstown isn't hard enough, being a power broker between prisons and fucking gangs in this awful Rust Belt town. But the point is that now the town's getting even bigger with outside forces that, frankly, no one's ready for. And that's really feeding into the theme of this episode as well. So, I mean, and the dark humor in this part really ramps it up. And I love how it kind of just sets the tone a little bit for this episode. He's like, the commandeered half the goddamn block. He's like, this place looks like a military staging area. And that's what I was saying last episode. When we saw, especially what really depicted it was the whole, the giant war-torn hole in walls between apartments. And that's what I guess Ian confirms here, is that they just took over literally an apartment-like strip of row houses, knocked down walls, and set up what Mike says a military staging area. Because if you remember, there's just a giant blanket and a huge hole. Anyway, as they walk through these burnt out apartments, Mike is gagging, and you can't help but, I mean, the whole time, literally to myself, I'm like, you're laughing out of complete disbelief. And especially this dialogue here, he's like, you know, Mike, why didn't you tell us that this was going to happen, or give us any kind of heads up related to this? And he goes, sometimes I have to compartmentalize. Like, oh. And then he goes, you sound like my fucking girlfriend. Telling a homicide detective with, I think they said 6 dead, something like that. The whole place is fucking burnt out. It looks, as they said last episode, like Fallujah. Because the cartel, I mean, they're making it like I think Tijuana is the other thing he said, or Juarez, because that's one of the big cartel towns. He may look like a deacon, but he's the devil. I think that's what Stevie says. He may look like a deacon, but he's the devil, talking about Frank Moses. And Mike is like, because Mike pretty much confirms that this was the work of Moses. And they're like, what? Moses? Sincerely? Like, holy fuck. And he goes, yeah, well, you know, he's a convenience for now, for Bunny. And with the cartel in town, maybe for us too. He says it like kind of lightly, and this is where Mike sometimes like smiles in his job and tries to use who better than Renner to sell that charm. And it's just like, with the cartel in town, as if it's, you know, circuses in town. Maybe this super deadly drug lord and crime lord from Detroit will be a good thing for our town. And then we get this great overhead shot of the crime scene as it pulls out. And then our series intro. So McCluskey residence, Tracy, poor fucking Tracy, wakes up to her car alarm blaring. Meanwhile, her husband's in prison. Her car alarm is blaring. She goes outside, and the driver's side door is open, and of course the music, which throughout this whole show is so good. Andrew Lockington, the composer, really deep cello, a lot of really cool shit. Anyway, she grabs baby Mitch, goes back inside, grabs baby Mitch, gets a bottle out of the fridge to feed him, and then she sees the kitchen window has been cracked open. Cello comes in and goes, So, you know, they could have pried it open from the outside, which is what Mike says, but I don't know, like some windows, somebody could have been in the house, is the point. Anyway, Frank Moses Train Tower. So this is the train yard that Frank Moses operates out of, and that's like his bada bing is the fucking train yard. You know what I'm saying? Tremendous shots of this train yard as always. We were talking last episode. This episode again, we're back to these exteriors of the industry of the smokestacks and all that shit. This episode or last episode and the past few have been a lot of train stuff, which makes sense for the Moses stuff and all the symbolism stuff that also is too, for train tracks, sides of the law, all that shit. Anyway, Mike visits Frank, Bunny, and LJ. We talked about LJ last episode, how he's this number 2 to Frank. He's such a good number 2. And Mike asks why they only sent 2 hitters. He's like, why did you only send 2 hitters after a fucking literal army of Colombians? And LJ and Moses were like, oh, well, they were just scouting the threat. And if you think about it, it is kind of brilliant, right? You only, at most, they probably knew they were going to lose whoever they sent. And so if you send 2 guys, yeah, you'll lose 2 guys, but you'll only lose 2 guys. And in their mind, and a sick utilitarian gang leader fucking calculus here, you strap a flamethrower on one of them, at least you'll kill more, you'll have more of an advantage, right? You've upped your power video game wise but you still only lose 2 guys. And at the point of the mission though is to assess the threat. And it's just like, holy crap, this is, talk about 4D chess. Like, this Moses guy don't play fucking games. And if you notice, he took over this retaliation from Bunny. Bunny would have sent an army. Mike would have insisted on some kind of army traditionally, but Moses is like, nah, son, this is how we do shit in Detroit. Anyway, Mike says they need to move ASAP, whatever their next move is, because he's like, we don't want another war. We just stamp this shit out so it doesn't become one. And so Tracy calls Mike. But if you remember last episode, it's fascinating that until we got this unseemly Colombian barbecue, Mike was all about, he's like, you got to go all in with this retaliation. And it was fascinating to see. Now, again, the peacekeeper, we don't want to see a war, but Mike knows when to strike. And again, that was fun to see something that we rarely see last episode. So Anchor Bay AdSec, Kyle is still trying to heal in bed. And good Lord, fucking Kyle, man. Callahan, the AB leader, Aryan Brotherhood, is still next door. And it's just this sick philosophical spirit guide, prison corruptor that he has next door to him. Again, poor Kyle. Callahan sends over this little mirror with one of his little string things. Now, before we get to the rest of this, like, the symbolism, I think, of mirrors, just for like 2 minutes, is fascinating, right? If you ever look into like film school-y stuff about reflection, identity, who you are now, who you will become. You know, stories are all about, obviously, characters changing over time. In this case, it's not just, Kyle's not just getting his mirror as a favor from Callahan so he can look around and then get corrupted, although obviously that's part of it. But it's really about Kyle is going to turn into Prison Kyle, as we're calling him. And Prison Kyle is going to be so fucked. Him looking back and forth with Callahan. If you just think about the millions of things that, also even the kind of metaphysical idea of looking into a reflection, not to get too heady here, but it's not you, but it is you. You know, it's the opposite. It's not actually an image, but it is. So anyway, or it's actually not your identity, but it is. So if you look into mirror stuff, I thought that was a fascinating thing in this episode. CO Cindy is monitoring this whole exchange between them, and I was curious, like, it's interesting. I don't know if they let them do that kind of thing. Maybe it's because it's Kyle, Mike's brother. She's letting it go. But like, do you normally in AdSeg just let... It's like the only freedom these guys have is sending shit via strings between cells. Anyway, she gets catcalled like crazy, goes into the hallway, and you could just imagine. I mean, this is the Hannibal Lecter when Jodie Foster's in the... again, this is dark humor, laughter here, but... when Jodie Foster walks through the Hannibal Lecter hallway there, and it's that same kind of shit. So C.O. Breen, the creep, speaking of creeps, is walking. I mean, if you think about it, this is just C.O. Cindy's job. He's getting creeped on by C.O. Breen, getting creeped on by actual incarcerated creeps, walking this new inmate in a wheelchair, and he's like, tax money helping the fucking needy, and he is just... pretty, obviously, he's a sick bastard. We don't have to go into this guy's background previously on Mayor of Kingstown. CO fucking Breen is a monster. So it's just adding to it. We're seeing how he thinks about the world, and the fact that this guy's hospitalized and that they have to give some level of extra care. In this case, changing a guy's colostomy bag, he is like, oh, fucking tax money. resources. Like, what a sick fuck. Anyway, she's like, yeah, well, they do have to, you know, shit will get infected. And like, anyway, Cindy says that she worked in hospice. So she's essentially defending him to an extent as a human being, at least. And he's like, oh, Mother Teresa to boot. Ugh. She's like, do you hate everything about this job? And of course, he sizes her up, not everything. Ugh. Fucking C.O. Breen. Monster. So, and before that, he asked her, he's like, hey, another smoke break? Because if you remember, they had their little creepy exchange last episode, kind of pretty much the premiere of C.O. Breen and of this season. And she's like, I'm trying to quit, and walks away. And I'm like, good for you, C.O. Cindy. This guy's a fucking creep. So McCluskey residence, Mike checks out the whole house, reassures Tracy after the whole, car alarm thing that the car was probably just someone trying to steal the catalytic converter. It's like, it's just a catalytic converter. Looked around the house, checked everything. And he says he'll have a KPD unit posted at the house in case to make her feel safe. Mike calls Ian. So he's still at the house. Mike calls Ian. This man is on the bridge. We can guess what this is about if you remember. I think it was last episode, and he was clocking Evelyn's location, and you're just like, fuck. And it's just extra disturbing, by the way. He's taking, and the show is so good at this with editing, directing, writing, however they fit this together it's extra disturbing that he's taking a call from Mike, the nature of which is protecting the family from a cop. Cut to a cinder block dropping into Evelyn's passenger windshield by him. So the same guy who's coordinating safety, it's just, he's such a fucking double, two-face is what I'm trying to say. So Raph's cell, Anchor Bay, details, as always, any other show, it's just, he'd be kind of heating up soup, eating soup. But we see how people heat up soup in a prison cell. And if you think about this guy's position in the Crip Gang, he is like, it's not even number 2. He's kind of like 0.5 below Bunny. He is up there in the Crips, but his job, as we always say, is to be in the prison side. As with Kingstown, you have to have someone inside. Everything runs from the inside. Anyway, this detail of plugging the heating element into the fucking fluorescent light to heat up the soup, and you're just like, welcome to prison. Raph delivers the message and lays out the plan of moving against the Colombians. And again, per Bunny's orders, they're gonna move against the Colombians, but Raph is like, I will... Anyway, the plan is to act cool and then go to work. And he makes sure they also know, this is interesting, he's like, Roberto is for me and no one else. So, which later we're like, huh? But anyway, he's like, I'm standing on business, I got this. And you think they're really gonna go after the Colombians, and then you see later on, it's like, huh, as always, Kingstown, subversion. Mayor of Kingstown, the show, is so good at subverting us. AdSeg's Sunshine Cage, I didn't know what else to call it. This is the outdoor area where people in AdSeg get, and it looks like a human-sized kennel. I mean, it's literally like those runs that you get for dogs. Big-ass cage, essentially. Merle gets a visit from Warden Hobbs. Finally, we get some Hobbs up in here. Still fear for your life, Merle. And this dialogue is sublime. Like, yo, I'm good. How about you? Got a clear conscience. Courage. And Callahan's courage. Wow. Well, Stoics believe you don't control the world around you, just how you respond. And we're getting in one of the best crime shows I've ever seen in my life. Again, one of my favorite shows of all time. They're really stepping it up. And we still have time for philosophy in here. And they make it interesting. They don't overdo it. Fuck me. Like, that is, as I always say, like, as a philosophy major, whenever you can sprinkle this in and still make it interesting and get, I would say, any audience with this stuff. So he goes, Stoics believe you don't control the world around you, just how you respond. And then he talks about the 4 pillars of Stoicism, which we're not going to go into detail, but he lists them. Because she said courage, and he goes, courage, temperance, wisdom, and he goes, and justice. And it's like, oh shit, fitting that Stoicism up in this show about justice. And she goes, yeah, and this is where it's just fascinating philosophically, where they fit it into the story, who these characters are. And basically, she and Merle are on the opposites of Stoics. Because she's like, that sounds reactionary to me. I'm not a reaction. Like, I need to control things. And you know what? I think you're the same way. And then she goes, God, again, the dialogue. Right now, you're the magic man. And he goes, how so? Well, you're in 2 places at once. You're in AdSeg, and you're on the infirmary list as well. And he's like, well, what's that about? And he goes, well, and she goes, well, you and I have a mutual friend. You stay the course, and I'll make sure you stay cozy. So the deal is that she'll keep him in AdSeg safe as long as he keeps corrupting our boy Kyle. And it's like, fuck. And now we're seeing even more of, again, no names, just we have a mutual friend, stay the course. She says nothing. I mean, as they say in The Sopranos, speaking of Edie Falco, this guy says less than Groucho Marx. That's what the feds say about Tony. Merle agrees. CO Cindy sees the warden walking away from Merle from inside the AdSeg building. Again, I think it might have been the last time we saw, or no, not the last time, but again, earlier on in the episode, the opening of the episode, that shot of CO Cindy from the next room. In this shot, it's her spying on, and again, I don't know if that's totally deliberate, but I like that we're getting a lot of these shots. And as someone who, as we'll later see, takes it upon herself to continue reporting to Mike, even after Mike was like, you don't have to, but she has, again, taken it upon herself to be part of Mike's gang. So her seeing the warden is not small, walking away from Merle. And so then they walk outside to fetch Merle, essentially, as their CO. The CO is to fetch Merle. She goes out there with another CO. And of course, Merle creeps on Cindy right away, which again, this is basically her job. She goes from a hallway of these people to a CO, a guy who literally works there, to now the head of AB creeping on her. That's her job. Kingstown General, I'm assuming that's the name of the hospital. Evelyn gets a visit from Mike, who, if you recall, last time they saw each other, you're like, oh, that's right. This visit is not a standard visit between Mike and Evelyn. Before, in previous seasons, this would have, holy shit, you get the point. So she says, she's like, ugh, I feel paralyzed without my phone. They can't even find it. I mean, that's how bad that Ian got her car fucked up, is that they can't even find her phone. Anyway, well, you look good. She's like, fuck you. Kind of green, but you look good. Such good dialogue. Renner, so good. This actress, I didn't write down her name, but I actually should have highlighted her, because this is, I mean, her performance in the hospital, she's so ballsy. It's so believable. Fantastic character of Evelyn. And she's like, some kids throwing bricks. I'm going to charge them as fucking adults. And he goes, you've got a long list of enemies. And he goes, I would be shocked if it wasn't one of them. I'm shocked. She's shocked that it's a message from, like, did she really not? I guess she's that, like, but she's not that by the book. She understands that she has worked with Mike. But it is, I don't know. I don't know if I bought that maybe that's a criticism here, is that, like, for Evelyn not to immediately think it was either Robert, especially Robert, if not Ian, with what's going on. But anyway, she insists on continuing to pursue Ian and Robert. Again, ball Z. She's like, I'm too close. I'm not going to back off now, Mike. This is my job. Kind of fuck off, essentially. And she said she has a witness. So this is a development that puts Ian at Morrissey's the day he died. I'm also wondering if that's even true. She's saying that, but like, oh, actually, no, that is true. I was thinking out loud there for a second, but Ian does say that there is a witness. He can't find the name, but that there is a witness. But I wonder, I wonder if in her power, she could fabricate, like, you can make up a CI. Remember in The Wire? I just thought of this. Again, brainstorming live, but they created Fuzzy Dunlop, Dominic Lombardozzi's character. Herc on The Wire, they created a fake informant to, get that whole thing with Marlo. Amazing shit. But anyway, I wonder if she did that. She's like, look, on my deathbed, I want to know I did more than just survived. Such good fucking dialogue, such a character work, right? Mike wants to look out for her safety. That's number one prime directive for him, of course. And she's like, yeah, but it's my job. Like, I don't want to just survive. I want to know that I lived and did my job. She's this close to taking out as bad people as you can get. People who took a serial killer to kill another cop. That is something, a point of no return from Ian. Anyway, and what's also fascinating, if you think about this for a second, the shit that Robert has done is also awful. There's no excusing any of it. He's the boogeyman, as Mike says. He made himself the boogeyman. But it's like, at least he did that with a SWAT uniform, with his guys around. He played the game of corruption, but he kind of like, whereas Ian, this is sloppy, bad. It's just, even I think for Robert, what I'm saying is that even on the scale of like, it just was, I guess, stupid of Ian. Like Robert wouldn't have been that sloppy is my point, which is fucked up to think about. The Mike driving show, Mike calls Ian, tells him to wrangle Robert and bring him to the river. So we're getting more river meetings. Again, water, trains. When he meets with C.O. Cindy, when Mike meets with C.O. Cindy last episode, when she's like, what the fuck, when after Carney got taken out. I think that's the opening of the episode. We get pieces of snow, continuing the theme of the snow, you know, snow and slush and ice and shit floating on the river. They met at the river. Death, freedom, all that stuff. And yeah, Mike never escaping. I think there's a lot there with water. Anyway, trains, as we talked about. Yard time, Anchor Bay. So again, Mike's like, get Robert to the river. So yard time, Anchor Bay. Raph walks up on Roberto's boys. So we saw the plan before, now we're seeing it play out. Acting like he's making peace. He's like, yo, we're good. And I love the Spanish here as always. Raph speaks fluent Spanish, street Spanish, I'm sure, but like whatever. It's just so fascinating to see a guy who's probably never left Kingstown who is fluent in Spanish. I'm guessing he's never left Kingstown. And then the plan plays out. Raph's boy shanks Robert's boy. Because again, he's like talking peace. And Roberto's like, peace? Like, we're past that. Get out of here. And then out of nowhere, his boy's just like, ching, 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 ching. Ugh. God. Again, after watching SOA, there's so many shankings and prison stuff. And it is rough stuff, man. Anyway, Raph then takes down Roberto, but doesn't kill him. We still get some action, though, because a guard fucking shoots somebody. I think it was one of the Crips running to like help Raph, I'm assuming, and these guys are over there, you know, overhead with rifles and just fucking assault rifles. So somebody gets killed for this. Aside from the other guy who already got killed, I'm assuming other people probably got killed. And then there's this great overhead shot of all the inmates lying down in the aftermath. And here is where the cello I talked about before, this haunting ass cello music kicks in, and it's because we're cutting to Callahan. The Kyle corruption show continues. Say that 10 times fast. He's like, better in here than out there, brother. And he's basically saying, he's like, yeah, if you can hear all that chaos. Kyle's obviously curious about what it's all about. The alarm's going off, and he's like, better in here than out there. And again, Kyle's like, well, seriously though, what do you think it is? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Small, and this line, this writing, Small's drama mutates epic inside these walls. Like, holy shit. And we've seen, again, Callahan, this is what's so fascinating about this character. He's a monster, but as a lot of these guys are, especially a leader, he's very well studied. Frank Moses is this brilliant, well-studied guy. Now we're seeing the AB version of him, and obviously he was talking fucking Stoic philosophy before. As we said before, the symbolism of the mirrors between these two characters, Kyle's transformation, I can't wait for more of that to develop. And Kyle's like, look, why am I so special? Kind of suspicious. He's like, you ain't special. You're just next door. And this mirrors literally, didn't think about that, mirrors the manipulation that we're later going to see with Frank Moses of playing cool, and even to the point of defending Mike in certain things where he's acting like, I don't know, we'll talk about it, but he's a master manipulator as well as Callahan. Callahan's kind of playing dumb. He's like, oh, I'm not. This isn't part of any kind of plan. I'm not doing you any favors. You're just next door. I'm getting as much out of this as you are. And meanwhile, we know what's actually going on. Ain't fucking Shawshank. And basically he's saying, he's like, there's no friends in here. There's not actual camaraderie. Ain't fucking Shawshank. Such good writing. There's just alliances. Way more important than any friendship. So good. Meeting at the river. The dark humor continues with Robert rolling up in his wife's CRV. He's always had that like 6-wheeled fucking dark pickup truck thing, and as we established last episode, he said somebody backed into it, some bitch backed up into me, and we know he was drunk driving and not admitting it. But anyway, little stuff like that. This is where the show is so good. Rolls up in the CRV, this tough guy, SWAT guy, driving aggressively too, not surprisingly. And I guess he's been watching the Mike driving show. He's, inspired by Mike. So Mike goes right after him. Like, he's such a pit bull. Robert, a psycho. He just, in 2 seconds from now, he's about to call him a boogeyman, and he's still just like, Mike never hesitates. Just jumps right into action. Mike is Batman from, just Batman. Batman will fight anybody. Mike will fight anyone. He was like, I was at the fucking bar all morning. As if that's like a reliable alibi or like something, but he was, we know he didn't do it, which is interesting. And, I'm always fascinated when you think about shows like The Choice. Do we show Ian do it? and then so that we know that Robert's off the hook, or do we continue to suspect Robert? Like, how much mystery do we maintain, especially with what we see with later on with Edie Falco's character? I mean, Nina Hobbs, we get barely any of her so far, but as I'm going to talk about, I think that's very deliberate. So it was cool to see that, like, Robert, for the first time ever, maybe, is actually innocent here. And he's like, from day one, I risked my life for your fucking family. He's got a point. I mean, he's done some heinous shit for the McCluskeys, for the mayor's office, essentially. And he says, he's like, you've turned your back on this. Essentially, he says that Mike's turned his back on the gang. And he flat out says, he's like, you know, I don't know if I should say this on the YouTube channel, but for the P word, to not get demonetized. He's like, basically, you're doing it for women. And he's like, you made yourself the boogeyman, fucking Kyle. And yeah, again, I mean, look, to Robert, and Robert has done some awful stuff, but he never had to do it at the level. Like, if you remember, there were examples, like specific examples that you'd see of the raids, and this was deliberate to show, like, he does go way overboard. The rocket launcher, like, yeah, RPGs aren't like standard operating procedure exactly for SWAT. So Robert says he didn't do it, but she got what she deserved. It's so Robert. He's like, I'd toast the motherfucker who did it. Like, god damn, dude. I didn't do it, but I'd toast the guy who did. Robert pulls away, and then the great close-up of Renner. So he's like, Evelyn has a witness. And Ian gets defensive. I mean, to the point of offensive, really. He's like, are you fucking kidding me bringing this to me? Da, 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 da. He's like, I grew up with her. And that's a fascinating thing. We talked about this in previous episodes, that on my rewatch, Evelyn is like, she says, this is our town. The fact that she's from Kingstown, has dug her heels in, I'm going to do what's right. You can kill me. I'm never leaving this town. And that's the thing with Mike, this theme of escape. Like, can we ever get out of this place? Kingstown being like the thing that almost infects and corrupts these characters in this awful setting. She'll never get out because from her perspective, it's like she is from there and she'll always fight. She's very Batman in that sense, I guess, too, for Gotham. Gotham is priority. And he goes, yeah? And he goes, yeah, I think you owe me an apology too. And he's like, she got a witness. That's your apology. Such good writing. Such good dialogue. Another river exterior. So as we leave this river scene, more exteriors of the river. AdSeg, CO Cindy takes it upon herself to record onto a legal pad the inmate list of AdSeg. So this is something that Mike had wanted, I'm pretty sure, and then he told her not to worry about it because of what happened to Carney. But now, this is what I was talking about before, she's taken it upon herself to do some dirt for Mike. Nice golden hour shot of the smokestacks. Can't get over our smokestacks. Now we have golden hour. We got night, guys. Then we got the morning shot before the crime scene. Now we got the golden hour, sunset. Back to the Mike driving show. Mike calls CO Kevin the Crip. And Mike is pissed. He's like, this is the third fucking time I tried calling you. Because CO Kevin has not been picking up his phone. He's like, can you do what I asked you to do? I told you, we're not fucking around. And he's like, why did you choose this job if you're not going to do it? It's beyond me. He goes, I didn't choose, I was placed. And that is crazy to think about, that Bunny has the power to just place a human being into an entire career for his own gang. It's nuts. And he's like, all right, well, what'd you do today? Now that I got you on the phone, asshole. And he's like, what's up with my brother? And he's like, I don't know, man. I was tossing cells all day. And he goes, Colombians or Crips? He goes, just Crips, because Raph is on lockdown. Colombians are licking their wounds. So Mike tells him, he's like, dude, get a burner, keep your head up, and answer your fucking phone. And he's so aggressive about it, because that is all, he doesn't expect anything from CO Cindy. He's getting info from her, but he doesn't expect it. And he hasn't gotten it yet, right? That's later in the episode. It's literally the end scene of this entire episode, which I noted, that he thinks that as far as he knows, Kevin's all he's got, and the kid's not picking up his phone. So he's flipping the fuck out. Now, Mike needs to be sponsored by burner companies and the Lincoln Motor Company, because the Mike driving show, he's always calling people as he's driving. He needs to sponsor these companies because he's a great, I think, sponsor. Great mascot. Rooftop of the cell phone store. This is Bunny's HQ. for this season, and Mike meets Bunny. He is so much taller than Mike. The two are standing next to each other. Really well lit shot. They use this like blue against the bricks, and I thought that might have been somewhat deliberate for the whole crypt thing. But anyway, just looks so damn good. The two of them standing there. Mike's pissed. I also think there's like, you know, him looking over the city. They're deliberately putting him on the roof, I think, to reflect his dreams and all the shit that we're talking about in this exact scene, actually. So Mike is pissed that Roberto is still breathing. He's like, Roberto's still breathing? The fuck? He's like, prison is the castle. It's the toehold for everything that happens in town. And Bunny's like, was, not anymore. And he says he trusts Raph to handle his. He's like, I delegate now, Mike. And he's like, he says he trusts Raph to handle his while Bunny handles his own. So Mike tells him about, Bunny tells Mike about his 10-year plan of essentially getting out, the fantasy I just mentioned. And he's like, look, I'm standing here and listening to you, but all I'm hearing is Frank Moses, which is, I love how direct he is with him. And it is out of genuine concern, but he's got to hear it. And again, Bunny is being master manipulated. As we're going to talk about later, as I mentioned before, the way in which Frank, especially in this episode, plays dumb in order to get Bunny continuously on his side of like, oh, I'm not trying to, I'm just here to help. And meanwhile, as we're about to learn, he's bringing in new people. So it's clearly Bunny's going to have to pay for this stuff. Bunny's being very naive here, unfortunately. And it's very concerning. Because if Bunny gets Game of Thrones, fuck, dude. It's hard to conceive the show without him, but look, we lost Mitch in the first, 25 minutes of the whole show, whatever it was. Like, holy shit. He's like, look, Frank ain't no ventriloquist. Because, like, and I like that Bunny gets defensive here. You know, he's a gang leader. He doesn't like being told that he's being manipulated. Okay, yeah, well, the cartel is making real moves. So your fantasies, however wonderful, Bunny, they're never going to happen until you deal with that reality. Look at what is in front of you. Look, it's fine to have these dreams. And this is exactly what he says. He's like, it's fine to have these dreams. You still have to deal with what is in front of you. And I think that's also part of what's genius about Frank's manipulation here is he's simultaneously distracting Bunny while he moves in his own people and himself into Kingstown with this whole dream thing. It's like, oh, think more about this. Like, look over here. It's kind of like distraction, smoke and mirrors, I guess you'd call it, with the Colombians. And whereas Mike's like, hey, wake up. Like, they're here. Mike says Bunny needs to hit their supply, do something big, and that these guys are bringing an army. He's like, they've got a fucking army, Bunny. And again, he's showing genuine concern for Bunny's safety. Because he's like, oh, you don't have to worry about, I forget what he says, but he's like, no, I'm worried about you. Oh yeah, because he's like, oh, about baby bro. He's like, no, you is who I'm worried about in this, you know, what I'm talking about right now. Because again, Mike and Bunny are brothers, guys. Bunny says this is where he reveals there's more new heads coming in from Detroit. It's just like, God. He's like, I told you. So Mike is xenophobic about outside crews, fucking understandably. He's got enough on his plate. His job is to spin plates and you know, barely keep peace in this awful place. You don't need outsiders who are more powerful than you. Like, no one needs that in this town. Not in this town, guys. So Bunny says Mike should also escape. What about your escape, Mike? He scoffs at that. He's like, escape? My brother's locked up. I got to protect my fucking sister-in-law. The Colombians, like, I'm never leaving. And this is where this feels like a beginning of the end, like foreshadowing thing of I'm never leaving. Like, I had my dream. If you remember, he had the dream of being like a campfire cook, essentially, and would cook which felt like a very Taylor Sheridan thing when he was feeding the bear, his relationship with nature. He wanted to be a chef and like that other life that essentially he's never going to have. Mike is never going to get out of this town, most likely, and God, it's so sad. So more nighttime industry shots. This is where literally, guys, it's pronounced, and I'll try to get off the subject, but you can hear, they added sound of a smoke, of a flame. Back in the hospital, Mike visits Evelyn again. He's sleeping in the chair. I mean, look, this guy cares. He might not have a bedroom, right? He might live in his office. It's still nice of him to visit someone that he, last time they were together, told him that she's dead to him. So Evelyn wakes up and asks how long he's been there. And great dialogue. He's like, oh, you know, not long. Like, oh, not too creepy. He asks about the CT scan. She says no fractures, no bleeding, mild concussion, thick skull. Mike assures Evelyn, it's time to take off because she goes right for her phone to get back to work. And he's like, you'll be all right. I'll make sure of that. So, elephant in the room, I thought I was dead to you. Back to the fantastic dialogue. Doesn't mean I want someone else to kill you. This show is not, again, the dark humor, good realistic dialogue. Also, it's so good with drama between, these writers would be so good with just writing romance, drama, whatever. And that moving ass theme, by the way, guys, from the series opening, I believe, that, I don't want to like sing it, but it's when Mike, I'm pretty sure when Mike's narrating, he's hitting the tennis ball over into the prison and we're getting like the Welcome to Kingstown type narration opening of the entire series in season 1 in the pilot. I'm pretty sure it's that music. And they played a lot, also, I want to guess, with his mom, Miriam. Anyway, again, dialogue. You forgive me? No, not a fucking chance. Because she says, like, I thought I was dead to you. Doesn't mean I want someone else to kill you. You forgive me? No, not a fucking chance. Renner is just so good. It's, again, drinking game. Renner being good on the show. Mike, you okay? So she asks, because he just kind of sits there and takes a deep breath. This is, as I was saying in my non-spoilers, the 70 slow burn dialogue, Renner taking his time. They just let the show breathe. It's not just compact with like noise and dialogue and unnecessary. They take their time. You get close-ups, camera pulls out, whatever they got to do to really show these real scenes of people. You know, people don't in real life fill up every fucking sentence or moment with dialogue. So she's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I need to sit down for a minute because you know, this is what respite looks like for this guy. That's his life." Anchor Bay, fuel truck pulls up to the gate at night. And CO Kevin the Crip approaches. So now he's back at work because Mike's like, answer your fucking phone. So I guess CO Kevin got the message there. Torres sees him and tells him to take a smoke break. And he's like, I don't smoke. He's like, yeah, Mr. Literal, take a fucking walk, essentially. And then CO Kevin creeps back and sees other COs unloading this truck. So back to the Mike driving show. Kevin calls Mike driving at night. And he tells him that he suspects what he just saw is how the Colombians are moving shit in to the prison. So that is a development. And Mike's like, good work. And this is, again, what makes the character so he's out of his mind. He's crazy, right? Mike McCluskey's a fucking nutbag, but he's still a good person-ish. McCluskey residence. Tracy is holding baby Mitch and looks out onto the unit parked outside. Again, they have someone protecting the house, and it's just, this is, again, I think where the show has stepped up, where some people are calling a reboot. We talked about this many times, but the way in which season 4 has improved something you already love so much, I think this is something that previous seasons did not do. It'd be like, hey, let's meet Tracy. I think she's even in the pilot. They do really moving scenes between her and Mitch, and then it's like she disappears. Like Tracy gets pregnant and then completely disappears from the show. So whereas, you know, Taylor Sheridan and these people are so good at writing and directing women, I think, especially for a show that could be so masculine and badass, a cop show with people getting killed. Sons of Anarchy, again, that DNA of people that are so good at writing women, even though it's about this, the popcorn of it all is the crime, right? Anyway, I liked being able to check in with Tracy at the bar. Ian and Mike are watching hockey. He asks how Evelyn is. And he's like, what's up with you? He's like, if you got fucking 20 questions, just... Oh, no, that's that's later on. We'll talk about that. That's his conversation with Stevie that I just mixed up. Anyway, he's like, I got a line on that witness. This is Ian talking. I don't have a name, though. And he's like, he'll track down the witness, but Mike's like, yeah, you know what? Well, how about you just don't bring a serial killer with you this time? Take care of it this time without the serial killer. And again, I've been watching not just SOA. He's Kozik from Tacoma in SOA, the actor Kenny Johnson, and then he's also, again, I'm watching for the first time The Shield, and he's Lem in The Shield. Anyway, so Mike leaves, and he's like, "Hey, how's your diabetic fucking cat doing?" And this is where Stevie calls out Ian on lying about the diabetic cat so that he could throw a brick into Evelyn's fucking window. So Ian admits, he's like, all right, I was lying. And he's like, what is up with you? And this is what I was saying before. And he's like, look, if you got something to ask, just ask. Don't be 20 questions about it. So this is like, he needs to talk about it, but he has to be offensively defensive about this whole Evelyn thing this whole time. And he's like, look, she's alive, all right? And Stevie is just incredulous. He's like, you cannot be serious. You seriously did this? What the fuck were you trying for? He's like, I wasn't trying to kill her. I would have thrown it through her driver's side if I was trying to kill her. He's like, what the fuck were you trying for? A mild coma? Oh my God. And he's like, look, I was just trying to scare her. Otherwise, again, it would have been through the driver's side. And then Stevie has a great line. Just this exchange is fantastic. Yeah, when is this bullshit going to be over? When we're dead. When we're fucking dead. And great line for a member of Mike's gang. I mean, these activities among these guys are irreparable. There's no going back from this. Moses Train Tower, back in the train, train field, whatever you call it. An extended sequence of Bunny pulling up to this place. And this is where, again, the show feels 70 slow burn. Like, why is this extended of Bunny, hey, what's up, what's up? All these overhead shots. And they just, I think, want to establish the power of Frank Moses. And the fact, again, it's no small deal. Every time Bunny leaves, that's a big deal. Thus far, we never see Bunny leave certain neighborhoods because he's Crip. And if he leaves that neighborhood, he gets gunned down. Whereas Frank Moses is in a position where he makes the head of the Crips come to him, which is, again, no small deal. Bunny says the message to the Colombian should stick. He's like, it was a shot over the bow, you know, like, I didn't have to kill him, but whatever. Because, again, Roberto's still alive. And he's like, well, I'm glad you're not worrying, Frank, because Mike, he's a fucking worrier. Because Frank's like, look, we kept the mayor happy. We're playing our game of 40 chess. We're good. And he's like, not like Mike. He's a fucking worrier. And then you're like, oh, Bunny, don't start driving the wedge. Anyway, your cool new role model versus Mike, who's just your boring dad now. Mike's an old hat now. And he's like, yeah, well, worry keeps you sharp if it doesn't consume you. So Frank swoops in with his, gangster philosophy here. Great line, great dialogue, but it's also, again, the 40 chest of master manipulation. Oh, playing it cool? No, I'm going to defend Mike. Don't worry about Mike's just trying to look out for you. Meanwhile, he, if you don't remember, just brought up Mike for the first time. So that's what got Bunny going. He's a fucking warrior because he goes, oh, we're keeping the mayor happy. Well, why'd you bring up the mayor? If you are going to defend him, bullshit. So anyway, Frank has a bunch of coins out on his desk, and if you remember, God, he laid out the coin after decapitating 4 Russians in the opening of the entire season. So there's a thing about this guy with money and property, which he explains. He's like, what's up with these coins? He's like, you got to find value outside, essentially gangster shit, right? So he's like, real estate, coins, whatever legitimate stuff. So Bunny's like, yeah, well, I've been buying up parcels all over town. He's like, that's good, boy. Basically, boy, he doesn't say it, but, because you're leveling up. The manipulation continues. So Frank said he did the same thing in Detroit, buying up property, until all the artists and redevelopers moved in. And so essentially we learned that Frank's methodology, spend only what's needed to re-up supply and cover payroll. Everything else you make legitimate. So but what he's saying is that, like, it actually is good once these developers move in, because that means that your money just, turns legitimate. Because the goal is to be, as he's saying, basically, if you could imagine like a 90-10, 90% spend all that money on making shit look legitimate. This is why this guy stayed out of prison this whole time. Again, Frank Moses, never been locked up, has no rap sheet, because he insulates himself by following this methodology. And he goes, you'd be surprised how many sins are forgiven when you donate to their charities. And they both laugh, which is a fascinating thing to think about, is that people who, these developers will move in, and or even idealists will come in politically, whatever. But if you donate to their charity, they'll look away at gangsters. Mike's office, ultimate hard-boiled detective shot. Light coming through the blinds, alone at his desk at night, drinking whiskey. Again, he literally lives in the next fucking room. CO Cindy's house. she's dealing with a very realistic fight between her kids. Just got home from work, which her job again is being catcalled by creeps and incarcerated felons. She calls Mike, gives him the list of inmates over the phone, which again, she does not have to be doing this. She is completely doing this at her own volition, and that says a lot for how she feels about Mike, but you can only predict. Again, there was a reason, editing-wise, they cut from the two of them connecting at the bar. And yeah, we see what happened, but there's a reason they cut from that within the episode directly to the insane final showdown with a fucking flamethrower, because we know where it's going. That Mike connecting with anyone is not good news, because that's Mike's life. And again, I mean, that's how he wakes up. He has to leave her right away. So it's all there, but just it's like, oh no. The fact that she's into it makes it so much worse, prediction-wise. Mike asks, but it's obviously great for drama. Mike asks, how long? So sorry, she gives him the list of inmates over the phone. He's like, whoa, Callahan? How long has he been there? She confirms he's been there the whole time since before. She's like, oh yeah, it's like before Kyle arrived. The way they shoot this dialogue, by the way, or record it, however, it's very like they're talking over each other, very realistic. She has no idea what's going on. She asks who Callahan is. This is how fresh and green. She doesn't even know who Callahan is. And then if you think about the character of Mike, this is drama at its best. Not only did they just get together, again, we saw the powder keg potential, all that stuff, what she has going on. But in terms of naivete, to the point of not knowing who the head of AB is, to a guy who was in prison working with and for AB just to survive, and is now this power broker. This drama is fucking amazing here. She asks who Callahan is. He doesn't even tell her. He's like, burn the list. Do you hear me? Burn the fucking list. And he's like, God damn it. Fuck. Just flips out. And it kind of mirrors the end of, I believe the opening episode of this whole season after Kyle gets lock-socked, beaten, and Mike confirms that he's completely out of control. Credits. Mike once again confirms and physically puts his forehead on his desk. He is just beyond distraught. Close-up's amazing as always, and he's just like, God fucking damn it, I have no control of this situation. Credits, baby. And it's like, whew, right there, I mean, and we know, before we get to final thoughts and recommends here, it's like, we know why Callahan's been there the whole time. Completely confirmed. So now we confirm why he's been there the whole time and why he'll continue to stay there. It was one thing that, like, we guessed that there was, there was suspicion there. It was like, it was no accident that Kyle was next to the head of AB is my point. But now we got beyond confirmation to the point where she is like doing direct dirt with fucking AB, this warden. So, man, predictions are just, I'll let your mind take over predictions about that. Again, credits, final thoughts and recommends continues to be a high recommend. Again, action slowed down for this episode a bit, but man, does this show continue to move. And here's what I was saying that I'm going to now go into a little detail about this. I'm not sure if this is a legitimate complaint yet for the season, because we're still one episode away from the half point of the season at 10 episodes total, like I said before. So it's 10 episodes total. This is episode 4. I just want more Nina Hobbs. And this is what I'm going to get into detail about here. My guess is that we're not getting a lot of her because, much like the mystery of the character, her even lack of screen time reflects her elusiveness to Mike and her threat to Kyle. Like, that she's a mystery, you throw in, sprinkle in shit to keep us going, right? Switzerland stuff with all those phone calls from Switzerland. You're like, what's going on there? Is this AB headquarters of Switzerland, Nazi HQ? More likely, it's, shady stuff that you can do with Swiss money and whatever. They turn their back on shady money dealings and all that shit. Also, can we really complain after what we just saw between her and Callahan? So I'm just guessing that that's a setup for getting a lot more of her in the next half of the season. And the direction just continues to impress, man. Like, the direction in general of the episode. Again, so glad these industry shots are back. Drinking game. The director, Leslie Hope, is a serious talent. I'm very excited about these future episodes and getting more. But look, if they continue to play into this mystery, I trust them. And look, if that's the criticism of wanting more of something, like I said with last episode, and now you're making it actually count, I'm in for it. All right, and that is the show. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, all the fun stuff. Turn on those notifications for future streams of Too Many Shows. Subscribe and follow the pod. Again, that's Too Many Shows, a TV podcast. Any kind of super donation here on the stream or on any of our videos is much appreciated. Again, every Monday, Kingstown reviews continue here on YouTube, starting between 2:30 and 3 p.m. EST. And finally, our exclusive pod for Nola King, the Sam Jackson spinoff series of Tulsa King, patreon.com/BatmanBeyondMedia. Just click the link in the show notes. And again, Sam Jackson just showed up last night, people, so check it out. And again, our Alien Earth post-mortem pod is on there too. Why they renewed season 2, who the hell knows? But if you want to hear what we thought in our post-mortem, check it out. Early access to podcasts, detailed episode notes for each pod. That's all just at the $1 level. And again, patreon.com/BatmanBeyondMedia. This has been Benjamin, reminding you to watch your shows.